The UUCT care team follows up with congregants who are experiencing joys or sorrows. The care team also addresses needs of congregants. The care team can be contacted by email at careteam@uutampa.org. And now to our service.
Good morning and welcome. Before we begin our service, let us take a moment to share in our stone ritual. I place a stone for our joys. One for our sorrows. And one for our intentions for the coming week. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa's June 6, 2021 virtual service. I'm Pat Benedict, your worship associate for today. Whether you've been a member here for years or you're here for the first time, we bid you welcome. Our community invites you to embark on a journey of spirit and of growth.
Hello, everyone. We're going to begin hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple." 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, it's a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we'll come round right.
The words for today's chalice lighting are titled "The Dancing Light" by Reverend Scott Taylor. Let this dancing light be our guide. Let it lure us into letting go of the worries, of the stillness that sets in after all the striving, of the myth that productivity alone gives us purpose. This garden of life we've been given is a playground. The weeding can wait.
Hello, my name is Erin Powers, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa. And today's story is called The Way of the Otter by Julie Simon. Daniel firmly grips his paddle and pulls hard against the water. He watches as the paddle tip dives below the surface, then leaves behind a tiny whirlpool as the paddle rises above the water. The kayak glides forward. He peers into the tall cattails arching above the sides of the kayak and scans for mud shoots. A light breeze wafts his hair back from his eyes, but he cannot see the banks at all in the dim dawn light. They paddle on and soon emerge from the cattails and reeds of the marsh channel into a small open stream. The sun climbs and glows up over the horizon. Now, Daniel can see muddy, grassy shoots among the roots and bushes covering the banks of the stream. "Mom, over there," he whispers, pointing to some marshy grasses from the second chute. "We can wait over there. If we're quiet, they won't notice us." They slowly paddle the kayak to the spot Daniel has suggested, backing it in so they can look out at the chute undetected among the grasses. And then they wait, quiet and watchful, breathing in the moist air. Daniel is prepared to wait the whole morning or longer if need be. He is an experienced otter spotter. But he does not have to wait long today. 3 river otters amble along the bank. They have long, slender, brown, fur-covered bodies, with long, narrow tails and cute faces with long whiskers. One is much bigger than the other 2. A mom and her 2 pups are out looking for breakfast. They slide down the mud chute into the stream, unaware that they are being watched. Daniel is excited, but he stays quiet, hardly breathing with delight. The otters dive underwater looking for small fish, clams, and crayfish. They each find a meal and climb up the bank to enjoy it. Then the otters slide back down the chute and dive for more food. One of the pups must be full. He quickly emerges from under the water with a rock instead of a fish, flips onto his back and tosses the rock between his front paws. He looks like he is juggling. Daniel can barely keep back his giggles, but he's hoping for even more fun. Sure enough, after the other pup eats her fill of fish, she joins her brother, juggling 2 rocks while floating on her back. Then her brother decides it's time to play slide and chase. He dashes up the bank and slides down the chute on his stomach. He lands in the stream with a swoosh, then dives and swims up beside his sister. She rolls and drops her rock. The 2 pups splash and roll across the stream. They chase each other up the bank and down the mudslide over and over again. Eventually, Mama Otter finishes her breakfast too. She joins the pups in the slide and chase game. They are 3 otters rolling and splashing and frolicking their way along the stream. Finally, Daniel can no longer contain his laughter. He giggles through his fingers. The otters stop and look over at the reeds where Daniel and his mom are hidden. Then they scramble up the bank and disappear into the shrubs. Daniel sighs a tired, contented sigh. Now he will go have his own breakfast. He has seen the way and the play of the otter. And today and every day, I hope you take time to play like an otter, or a squirrel, or a bird, or any number of creatures that we share our home with. May they always remind you to live joyfully and playfully. And with that, our story ends.
Today, we are happy to have Reverend Joe Donatone as our speaker. Reverend Donatone has been welcomed into preliminary fellowship with the UUA. He is completing chaplain residency and fellowship at the Lewis Stokes Cleveland VA Medical Center, where he is studying the intersections of spirituality and moral injury, military sexual trauma, and PTSD. Welcome, Reverend Donatone.
For our meditation today, I invite you to find a comfortable position. Perhaps close your eyes or let them gaze gently at the ground or a far-off space. Breathe deeply and comfortably, and consider the words of Darren Sardelli and his poem, Recess, Oh Recess. Recess, oh recess, we love you, you rule. You keep us away from the teachers in school. Your swings are refreshing, your slides are the best. You give us a break from a really hard test. Recess, oh recess, we want you to know. You're sweeter than syrup, you're special like snow. You don't assign homework, you make the day fun. You let us play kickball and run in the sun. Recess, oh recess, you're first on our list. We'd be in despair if you didn't exist. We're happy we have you. You're awesome and cool. Recess, oh recess, we love you. You rule.
Please join in singing number 1009, Meditation on Breathing. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Joe Donatone, and it is an absolute honor to be of service to you and join you this morning. Now, before I was an ordained UU minister, I was already engaged in ministry. The First Unitarian Church of Orlando ordained me back in 2020, but my first call to this vocation happened in 2012. I discovered this unique organization of people who dressed up in drag, as nuns no less, and painted their faces in a sort of clown parody of femininity, and then gallivanted out into their queer communities, spreading joy and merriment. For some of you, this is already ringing a bell. You know who I'm about to introduce. But at the time, I didn't know who these people were, and I didn't know why, but I knew I had to become a sister of perpetual indulgence. So, in addition to Reverend Joseph Donatone, I am also Sister Christina Darling of the Orlando Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. If you can imagine, Sister Christina is a bubbly, glitter-loving, tutu-wearing, joyful kind of gal. She has never met a stranger, and she thinks you are the best-looking thing on 2 feet, and she needs you to know it explicitly. When you ask to take Sister Christina's picture, and this happens a lot for sisters because we are just so over the top, Sister Christina insists that you join, and then she politely nudges you to the front and center of the photo. Because for that moment, Sister Christina isn't the star, you are. And when we arrive at the event, Sister Christina finds her beloved nerds, oddballs, and queerdos. These folks are usually hanging out around the edges of the party. They're the folks who think they might be a little too old, or might feel a little too fat, or a little not pretty enough, or not exciting enough. So they hang out at the edges. If you are part of the queer community and you have ever joined the Electronics Club, the Star Wars Fan Club, if you like to do math for fun, you are God's chosen people and you heard it here. And if that's not your theology, you are certainly Sister Christina's chosen people. You are my chosen people. And Sister Christina would rather hang out with you than with any of the popular kids at the popular table. Now, you see, my first interaction with a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence occurred when I was standing at the edges of a nightclub myself. It was a club called the Parliament House in Orlando. I had just relocated 1,000 miles away from my friends, and I was feeling a little too fat. I was feeling a little too ugly. I was a little too unsteady in my feelings to even imagine making friends. I was lonely, I was homesick, and I was miserable. Then, Sister Isadora Knocking walked right up to me and asked, "Why is a cute boy like you not having more fun?" And in about 5 minutes, she had blessed me with the sister's sacred blessing glitter, picked me up, brushed me off, and she reminded me how to relax. She reminded me how to play. Play is an integral part of the work of the sisters, and you can see it in the mission statement of our national organization. It goes like this. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are a leading-edge order of queer and trans nuns. We believe all people have the right to express their unique joy and beauty. Since our first appearance in San Francisco on Easter Sunday, 1979, the sisters have devoted themselves to community service, ministry, and outreach to those on the edges, and to promoting human rights, respect for diversity, and spiritual enlightenment. We use humor and irreverent wit to expose the forces of bigotry, complacency, and guilt that chain the human spirit. Now, I find myself correcting folks when they say, "Oh, y'all are like nuns." Well, we aren't just like nuns, we are nuns. And while we don't take ourselves too seriously, we take our vows and our ministry very seriously. It takes at least a dedicated year of preparation and training to become a sister. And when I took my vows, I took them for life. Our nun drag is in solidarity with the bold women of the cloth, the more traditional nuns, who have taken vows to dedicate their lives to service and have done so throughout the centuries. As we like to say, they raise money for the needy, we raise money for the needy. They tend to the sick, we tend to the sick. They build their communities, we build our communities. They have taken vows of celibacy, we raise money for the needy. There are a couple important ways that our vows differ a little bit from other nuns. Now, our genesis as an organization co-occurred with the AIDS epidemic. And back then, gay men were vilified and reviled by the larger society, while AIDS ravaged our communities. We called out for help, and the government actively ignored us. Many of our families turned their backs on us as hospitals were overrun with our sick and dying. And for a time, a rather lengthy time at that, we knew little about the transmission of the virus, and doctors and nurses would care for AIDS patients in hazmat suits folks became afraid to touch an AIDS patient for fear of infection. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine dying a painful and terrifying death all alone, without anyone even willing to hold your hand in that fear? The sisters wouldn't stand for that. These were our friends, our families, and our communities that were suffering. So we did what we knew was right to do. Where there were people dying of AIDS in need of compassion and comfort, we pulled on our habits and showed up. We held the hands of the dying. We comforted the husbands, partners, lovers, boyfriends, those who were left behind. Where there were people terrified of catching the disease and in desperate need of information and protection, we pulled on our habits and showed up. We went into the bars, the coffee shops, the bathhouses, the queer spaces, handing out condoms, and we created the first safer sex pamphlet in the world. But you know what we noticed? Even as our membership swelled and our outreach grew, our community remained devastated and weary. For years, this disease took your lover. It took the guy you just fell in love with. It took your best friends. It took members of the chosen families who were there for you when your biological family refused to be. There is nothing more cruel than a virus that kills the ones you love the most. That devastation and that weariness are manifestations of deep spiritual pain. That's why joy, humor, and irreverence remained so central to our ministry. We needed some relief from those years of continuous trauma. If only for a moment, we needed a break. We needed to remember that nothing can break us, nothing can steal our joy, and nothing can deny us the very lightness of being that is the right of every human. I truly believe that laughter is powerful medicine. And it may not rid the body of HIV, and it may not reverse the ravages of AIDS, but I believe that joy and laughter can make pain and trauma easier to bear. In the words of Ash Perrin of another organization called the Flying Seagull Project, he says, "A body that feels better heals better." Now, the Flying Seagull Project, as I said, another organization, is a British charity organization that Ash Perrin founded in 2008, and their official mission is to share joy worldwide through music, art, circus, and dance. Work with vulnerable, abandoned, displaced, and poor people, run creative sessions to help build confidence, and aid childhood development and strengthen communication. I learned about the efforts of the Flying Seagull project at the start of the European migrant crisis back in 2016. As we know, Europe decided to close its borders to refugees from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And from 2015 to 2019, hundreds of thousands of people were held in these camps. This fantastic group of silly people, my favorite kind of people, clearly, went into the refugee camps specifically to attend to the needs of children. Let's take a moment to hear about their work in their own words.
We're clowns, musicians and dancers, performers, play workers, play specialists, and we focus on working with refugee families who are living in harsh environments. When we first got to Idemeni camp, for example, I did have major doubts, like, is this the right place for us? Like, are we insulting them? You see the kids and their first reaction is a bit like, and they look at you and you go, so we've been doing music, circus, art, dance, cinema, puppet making, Kaylee dances, pizza decorating, anything we can think of to give them an opportunity to feel good and to feel daft and to feel playful. What is your name? Their eyes sparkle just for a second and then just kids again, and it's so simple, actually, to be honest.
Before, the kids doesn't have anything to do. Just they stay in the tent. When you come, you make something from nothing.
Beyond politics and beyond all this adult stuff, kids just are kids, and they like to play duck duck goose, and they like to run about, and they like to be congratulated for very average artwork. You know, they need that. Our futures are the dreams we have as kids turned into reality. I want them to feel like they can do anything.
How awesome is that organization? They go in to provide moments of relief from the trauma of the refugees' displacement and the stress of the refugee camps. They go in to provide children with recess. Now, dozens of researchers have and continue to study the link between physical health and emotional and spiritual wholeness. And on this topic, Ash Perrin, the guy we just heard from, he was asked, why is joy and happiness just as important as food and water? Here is his brilliant response. Because humans are more than just a machine that needs to be oiled and maintained, intertwined in a set of logistics from birth to growth to career to death. Humans are a magnificently creative creature. They can explore the notion of existence and as such create myth and story and play and magic. This idea that the body and the mind are two separate things, one of which, the body, must be kept moving, and the other of which, the mind, is a bonus, to be honest, is quite ridiculous. I'm so excited by the progress of epigeneticists, biosocial scientists, researchers, psychologists, and even quantum physicists who are striving to explore and understand the incredibly intertwined, intricate, and inseparable link between both body and mind. An unhappy mind creates an unhealthy body, whereas a happy mind can do the mirrored and make it healthy. Perrin continues, so joy and happiness are just as important as food and water, not just in a hypothetical or spiritual way, but in a physical and neurological way. Also, what is the point in life if it is simply to eat, drink, grow, move, stop? Joy and happiness are the gifts that balance out the stress and difficulty of the human's awareness of itself. Think about that. Now, Perrin is talking about children, but how much of that applies to every age? How often have you felt that you were slogging along on a path from birth to growth to career to death? When was the last time you celebrated your creativity and made art for art's sake? When was the last time you intentionally made time to disconnect from your work and let yourself rest, truly rest, body, mind, and spirit? Again, he says, joy and happiness are the gifts that balance out the stress and difficulty of the human's awareness of itself. That is some powerful theology. Now, I suppose by now, you probably know where I'm going with this. I've been talking about trauma and the response to trauma for 15 minutes now. As a chaplain, I deal with trauma every day. I encounter it in almost every patient. Friends, we have suffered a trauma of our own these last 16 months. This pandemic has ground us down. And by some measure, we are all devastated and we are all weary. And this devastation and weariness, they are spiritual. They cut deeply. If we don't take time for recess, I fear we won't make it through the rebuilding phase of this pandemic. I think we need to play. Dr. Peter Gray, formerly of Boston College, is a researcher on the importance of play. By his definition, play is self-controlled and self-directed. Going a little further into his philosophy, effective play has 4 essential features. Presence. Play should allow us to be present in the moment. There is no right or wrong way to play, but the focus of our intentions should be on the means, not the ends. The engagement in the process, not the results. Imagination. Play should allow for the lines between the real and the magical to dissolve. As play advocate Mallory Nizam says, play allows us to begin asking what is possible rather than what is impossible. Attitude change. Play should be enjoyable. It should lift our mental, emotional, and hopefully spiritual states. Deep engagement. Play requires direct participation. Full stop. Now, watching someone play might be fun, but that's not quite enough for our purposes here. Now, I'm going to add a 5th quality of effective play. Practice. For many of us, we haven't played in a long time. We need to limber up, get those play parts of our brain activated again. And we won't be good at it to start. So we need to engage with play the way we engage with any spiritual practice. We need to practice it. Presence, imagination, attitude change, deep engagement, practice. Now, if you're like me, you probably need some examples of how to play. So here goes. Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, walking meditation, playing with our dogs, and seriously, I mean making peace with that wet, slimy, cold tennis ball and grabbing it with our bare hands and playing with our dogs. How about we take our shoes off and walk in the grass or the sand? Or if walking isn't possible, how about we run our hands through it? And if we're feeling cheeky, maybe we sit our bare butts on it. Maybe we get creative in the kitchen, cook up something new, try a recipe we've never tried before, create a recipe for the first time. How about we dust off that old piano or accordion or tuba, whatever, and make some noise. It's not about perfection. It's about the joy of making noise. Now, if you were like me, you also need some suggestions on what not to do. Now, this first one, don't take a class. Now, that pains me as a Unitarian Universalist to say, but don't take a class. Don't listen to a TED Talk or a lecture. Don't do anything that has you staring at a screen of any kind. Not your phone, not the TV, not a great big movie screen, none of those. The point of this spiritual practice is to be present in the moment and present in your body. The point of this practice is not to escape. Now, the unfortunate truth is that this pandemic is not the last bad thing that will happen in your life. It's not the last traumatic event, nor is it the last long-term challenge you're going to endure. Relearning how to play and taking time to build play into our lives, to reclaim the idea of recess and apply it to our adult lives, this can help us remain resilient. And as IBM engineer and visionary John Cohn says it, the harder it gets, the harder you have to play. Now, I hope we have turned the corner on COVID-19. I hope that we can begin to repair what is broken. That work is difficult, and it's going to continue to be difficult. Just as this pandemic lasted longer than we expected, so too will the repair process. What I know, what Sister Christina Darling knows, is that we cannot do this work alone, and we cannot do this work without finding the time and places for recess. Now, whether literally or metaphorically, we need to put on our silly hats, gather our circles, and make joyful noises. We need to vent the negativity that has been building within. We need to reach to the heavens and pound our feet in the dust. Recess helps us do this. It gives us a few moments away from the hard work so that we can recharge our batteries. It gives us time to find our center and connect with those people, places, pets, and activities that give our life meaning. Recess gives us time to remember what it is we are working so hard to repair and rebuild. Recess gives us time to step back and say, I am here. May it be so, and amen.
To support the UUCT with your generous financial gifts, please go to the UUCT website and click on the Click Here link to donate. It will take you to our donation page, and you can securely make your donation to the church. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mindy Murphy, CEO of the Spring at Tampa Bay. I so enjoyed my time with you in 2019 and have been looking forward to seeing you in 2020. Unfortunately, the pandemic has interrupted our lives in so many heartbreaking ways. Since we can't be together, I hope this 2-minute overview of our programs for survivors of domestic violence will help you know what resources are available if you or anyone you know needs our life-saving and life-changing help. For almost 45 years, and even throughout the pandemic, the Spring of Tampa Bay has been open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether a survivor wants to make a crisis phone call or needs to flee to the safety of our shelter. We've also offered services outside of shelter, like support groups, linkage to community resources, advocacy, and safety planning at 2 weekday outreach locations in Tampa and Plant City. For over 20 years, we provided transitional housing at our Peace Village apartment complex, where at any given time, 12 moms and their kids will live on-site for up to 18 months as they rebuild their lives. And since 2017, we've built a top-notch legal program for survivors seeking an injunction for protection, employing 8 attorneys who provide free legal representation to survivors of intimate partner violence, sexual assault, or stalking. Last year, we sheltered 509 adults and 477 kids, answered 7,089 crisis calls, provided safety services to 1,285 survivors outside of shelter, and provided legal advice and representation to 1,206 survivors. When wonderful folks like members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa make cash gifts to support our work, you do so much good. For example, $25 can provide a gas card or Uber ride to get to and from an outreach appointment, injunction hearing, or medical appointment. $137 can enable an advocate to spend 8 hours answering our 24/7 crisis hotline. And $357 can underwrite a day in the life of our 3-person kids team, who lead out-of-school activities and meet individually with kids and moms to connect youngsters to services and supports. We are so grateful to each of you for caring about survivors of domestic violence and supporting our mission to end domestic violence and keep survivors safe. In closing, if you or someone you love is a victim or survivor of domestic violence, we want you to know you are not alone. Help is only a phone call away at 813-24/7-SAFE. Thank you.
We extinguish our chalice with these words, "We," by Marianne Radmacher. Every once in a while, make no plans. Have the nerve to walk out the door and let possibilities introduce themselves. Wander, imagine, stare. Be surprised. Parades will find you. Travel in your armchair, with a book, on a boat, in a car, in your thoughts, on a bike, or any vehicle that will take you from the walls of your own knowing to someplace other. Other gestures, smells, words, tastes, views. Look upon the world through windows other than your own. Learn to be good company to yourself. A bit of joy passes by because there is no one to go with. A party of one is sometimes the best time. Dance by yourself, anywhere there's room in your house. There is something invigorating, even a bit of magic, to music, to movement, and a touch of laughter. Go ahead, dance. Enjoy participating in the unexpected. A little turn of whimsy is a gift. A quick, cool rain shower on a hot, dusty day. Enjoy flowers for no reason. Visit an old friend. Greet a stranger. Tell a sweet little joke in line at the grocery store. What did the snail say as he climbed on the back of the turtle? Whee! Play can happen anywhere. You are the toy.
Hello, everybody. Our next hymn is number 168, One More Step. One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us. Everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
This concludes our service for today. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found something to take with you to think about throughout the week. May your days be filled with kindness, wisdom, love, and play.